So originally I planned on doing a review of this watch, but as it turns out, I agree with everything Bruce said about it in his review, so you should definitely check that out. I'll have a link to his video in the video description. So what I'm going to do is share this watch's history with you, and hopefully you'll be able to see what makes it so special. That's coming up right after this. This is the SBBN 033 and one of several versions of the Seiko Tuna. I have it here on a WatchGecko Shark Mesh T-Link bracelet that I think it looks fantastic on. Now when you first look at this thing, most of us either love it or hate it, and a few fall somewhere in the middle. In some ways, it's almost like that Pierce teen walking down the street that makes you wonder why they go out of their way to be so different. But the reality is that making that assumption about this watch would be grossly oversimplifying its significance and origin. To be completely honest, the first time I saw it, I was pretty indifferent. I didn't love it or hate it per se, but I didn't think it was something I'd enjoy. That was, of course, before having the opportunity to wear it for the last week. And as with any good book, the beauty is in its pages, which makes you appreciate the cover. Now, you've heard people say that this chunk of steel was purpose-built, and through our hobby we've heard that phrase so much that it almost feels like a gimmick. But the Seiko Tuna is its literal incarnation. This wasn't Seiko's first diver. In fact, the company's first diver was the reference 6.2 MAS in 1965, a whopping 11 years after the Rolex Submariner. Now, while the first iterations of Seiko divers were great pieces, the reality was that the underwater discovery and adventure was quickly evolving, and in 1968, Seiko got a letter from a Japanese saturation diver complaining about Seiko divers filling up with helium and losing their crystals. Now, like any purpose-driven organization, Seiko took that letter to heart, and that started the company down a 7-year project to develop a piece that could stand up to the rough and unpredictable needs of underwater adventurers. Japanese industries are often credited with taking an existing concept and perfecting it, but that doesn't hold true with the Tuna. They didn't take dive watch solutions from Rolex or Omega and perfect them. They started from scratch. And the result was a diving instrument that consisted of over 20 patents and world firsts. The first Tuna, reference 61597010, was released in 1975, with a high-beat 10 Hz mechanical movement, titanium case, ceramic protective shroud, and an L-shaped gasket. Now you might be thinking that some of these features are pretty standard now, but that was 1975, when these were far from standard, but you can thank the Tuna for paving the way. Now, this fine-tuned diving machine was 51 millimeters and engineered to accompany deep-sea explorers, as opposed to the desk diving wrists that it accompanies now. Now, in 1978, another letter of complaint led to the quartz release, the reference 75497009. Quartz at that time was still a new concept and nowhere near as cheap as we think of it now, and that quartz release was known as the Golden Tuna, the very first quartz version of this legend. The logic here was to increase both accuracy and resistance, particularly shock resistance. This is a feat that's arguably better accomplished by quartz. Now, in 1986, they saw the release of the high torque quartz that we see in today's quartz models. This quartz has a 7-joule gear train, which means it uses much less kinetic effort. In other words, high accuracy and efficient full-size quartz machine with much less resistance. Now, this movement also features dual rate trimmers, which keeps the watch perfectly synchronized for extreme accuracy. The end result is incredible accuracy with more than 2 times the battery life of your average quartz. The caliber also manages to incorporate end-of-life low battery warning, which means the seconds hand will only tick in 2-second intervals when the battery voltage is low. Now, before you start to think that isn't a big deal, try being 100 meters underwater in 1986 with only your watch and then realize that the battery just died because you had no idea the battery was low. Yeah, I'll take the end-of-life battery warning. Now, in 2000, Seiko did pay tribute to its first Tuna with the limited edition SBDX 005, which came complete with a mechanical movement. In 2009, they followed it up with regular production mechanical variants like the Emperor Tuna SBDX 011, and there are now several variations on the original Tuna theme. Now, this diver certainly deserves its place among the stars as one of the ultimate tool watches, and I hope sharing some of its history with you can help you appreciate it, if nothing else. So if you're still wondering whether you should consider one, nah, I wouldn't bother. Unless you're into professional grade watches with a kick-ass history, then you might want to think about it. Now, I hope you enjoyed this little look into the history of the Seiko Tuna. If you'd like to check out an awesome review, make sure to check out Bruce Williams' video in the video description, and he'll share everything that he thought about the Seiko Tuna, which pretty much echoes everything I think about it. Now, if you enjoyed this video or found it useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and as always, if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. That's it for this one. CG out.